You made it. And that already makes this video 10 times better. If it's your first time here, don't be shy. Hit subscribe and pass this video along like a secret recipe. Let me know in the comments. Where on earth are you watching from? I read every single one. Let's light this thing up. Rain battered the windshield in waves as I idled near the entrance of the Meridian Club. 3 women tumbled through the revolving door, laughing too loud, gripping their luxury handbags like flotation devices. The tinted glass of my black sedan kept me invisible, just a shadow behind the wheel. I still don't get how Serena ended up marrying her driver, the blonde sneered as she slipped into the back seat. Her voice carried the sharp elegance that only comes from too many cocktail parties and too much privilege. I nudged the rearview mirror until her face came into focus. Jessica Crane. I'd driven her before. She never remembered drivers, waiters, or anyone else paid to be invisible. "What does the guy even do?" she said, disgust curling her lip. "Just sits there and drives all day?" To her right, Sarah Kim clicked her seatbelt, her manicured nails catching the ambient light. "It's so average." Amanda Cross leaned forward, settling between the front seats. "Where to tonight?" "The Velvet Room on 5th, Jessica answered, not lifting her eyes from her phone. "We need drinks after that nightmare of a dinner." I nodded and pulled away from the curb, the engine humming softly. On the dashboard, a small amber light blinked on, audio recording in progress, as disclosed on every door. Most never noticed. Sarah kept talking. "Serena acts like he's some kind of prize just because he drives rich people around, as if that makes him interesting." At the next light, I turned left instead of heading downtown, rerouting us deliberately. "At least Troy had actual money," Amanda added. "Remember that yacht party?" "That guy lived." My grip on the steering wheel tightened. Troy Vale, Serena's ex. Wealthy, reckless, and addicted to both status and cocaine. Jessica laughed under her breath. "Oh, and don't tell Serena, but Troy still has a key to her condo." Silence swallowed the car. Only the rain kept speaking, drumming on the roof. I kept driving, taking turns that moved us away from downtown and into a maze of warehouses and office towers. From the mirror, I caught Jessica's confusion as it began to bloom. "Hold on," she said. "This isn't the—" I turned into a gated underground garage beneath a corporate high-rise, 30 stories tall, headquarters of Vale Capital. The doorman waved us in. He knew me. I parked near the elevator and dropped the privacy divider. It was the first time they'd seen my face. "End of the ride, ladies," I said, smiling. Jessica froze. Sarah looked like she might be sick. Amanda lunged for the door. "You're—" Jessica stammered. "Nate Kellum," I replied calmly. "Serena's husband." The man behind the wheel. The 3 of them spilled out into the rain-slick garage, heels clicking in panic as they rushed into Troy's building without looking back. I waited until the elevator swallowed them, then glanced at the dashboard. The audio had recorded everything, each cruel word, each careless insult, and the part about the key. The drive home was quiet. Rain lashed the windows while the wipers kept time in slow, steady sweeps. The streets were empty, the city asleep. At 3 a.m., I sat in my office, light from the monitor casting a pale glow. The recording software was open. I cut a clean 2-minute clip from the audio. Jessica's cruel disbelief. I still can't wrap my head around Serena marrying her driver. Sarah's disdain. What does he even do? Sit behind a wheel all day? Amanda's careless secret. Don't tell Serena, but Troy still has a key. I saved it to a USB drive, labeled only with a date, no commentary, no context, just facts, legally obtained, fully disclosed. Serena was still asleep upstairs. Her flight to Chicago, a PR conference or something, left early. The timing was perfect. I opened her makeup drawer and slipped the flash drive between the brushes and lipsticks. It would stay hidden until fate or curiosity brought it to light. By the time she padded into the kitchen, I was on my second coffee and halfway through the news. She held the USB in her hand, like it had dropped from another planet. "What's this?" she asked. "Plug it in," I said without glancing up. I watched her expression change as the clip played. Confusion first, then realization. Finally, a flicker of fear. When it ended, she set the laptop down carefully, hands shaking. "Where did that come from?" she asked quietly. "They were in my car Tuesday night," I answered. "They asked for the Velvet Room. I took them on a little detour." You recorded my friends?" I pointed to the liability notice posted on the refrigerator, the same wording used in my car, just standard legal protection. They'd all agreed to the terms when they scheduled their rides. "This is ridiculous, Nate." "Ridiculous that I dropped them off where they requested?" I asked. "Or that I recorded audio inside my own vehicle, clearly marked with signage?" I folded the newspaper slowly, precisely. "Or maybe it's more outrageous that I let you hear what your dear friends really think about me?" She stared at the USB like it was wired to explode. "Troy doesn't have a copy of the key." "He doesn't," I replied. "I changed the locks last year." A faint grin tugged at my lips. "Did you ever mention that to them?" She didn't answer, but the silence said enough. "I've got a flight to catch," she finally said. "Have a safe trip," I told her. I watched her move through the apartment with the mechanical precision of someone who'd practiced leaving. At the front door, she paused and looked back. "When I return, we're discussing this. The next time you talk about me," I said, "you might want to check who's listening." She slammed the door hard enough to shake the windows. I topped off my coffee and started outlining my next move. The scent in Jace Feller's garage was a mix of engine oil and ambition. We'd been friends since high school, back when he was fixing up dirt bikes and I was fantasizing about a racing career. These days, he upgraded high-end vehicles with live tracking systems. "You want me to track the drop-off and pick-up spots for your wife's friends?" He gave me a long look, wiping oil-stained hands on a rag, like I'd just asked for nuclear codes. "I'm not asking for anything shady," I said, leaning against his cluttered workbench. "Just the stuff they already give away, their check-ins, their ride bookings, whatever they post themselves." "And what exactly are you trying to prove?" "I'm tired of being dismissed." He nodded slowly. He understood. His ex-wife had treated him like wallpaper for years before she ran off with her fitness coach. "I can match their ride requests to social posts," Jace said. "It'll tell you who's going where, when." "But this feels like I'm stirring the pot?" I offered. I smiled. "I'm already in the fight. They just haven't noticed." He opened a logistics app on his tablet. "Who am I looking for?" I listed the usual suspects, the women who'd spent years shaping Serena's opinion of me behind the scenes. Jessica Crane, Sarah Kim, Amanda Cross, and a few others who think they've got me figured out. "All of this is public," I reminded him. "Client rides, social media tags, shared locations, they hand this stuff out for free." "Legal doesn't always mean smart," Jace said. "And smart's supposed to be your domain, right?" "I observe. I remember. And I don't let things go." I tapped the tablet screen for emphasis. "I've chauffeured these women for more than 2 years. You think even one of them recognizes the guy behind the wheel?" He pulled up Jessica's Instagram. Photos from last weekend's gala flashed across the screen, exact times and addresses that matched my logs. "She books you every Thursday," he noted. "Goes bar hopping with the pharma crew. Posts the whole itinerary in real time. Makes it easy. What's the end game?" he asked. I pictured Serena hearing that recording for the first time, the shift in her expression when she realized her friends weren't loyal, and neither was she. "I want the truth," I said, with fallout. A chime sounded from his computer. "New ride just booked," Jace read. "Ellie Shore. Airport pickup Thursday morning." "Now there's someone who's hiding something," I muttered. Ellie Shore, bridesmaid at Serena's best friend's wedding 2 years back. I'd driven her twice. Both times ended the same. Tipsy, rattled, avoiding eye contact like the truth might burst out. "You know her?" Jace asked. "I know she's not telling everything." I headed toward the exit. "And I plan to find out what she's been keeping quiet." When I pulled up in front of her office high-rise, Ellie froze like she'd seen a ghost. Perfectly dressed, but twitchy. The kind who checks her phone like it's counting down to detonation. "Hi," she said quickly, sliding into the back seat. "LAX, Terminal 6. I recognized her immediately. That bright red hair, those restless hands, the way her fingers fidgeted with her wedding ring like it was evidence she shouldn't be holding. "It's been a while," I said, easing into traffic. "Last time I saw you was the Patterson wedding." Her face drained of color. "You remember that?" "I remember faces," I said calmly, "especially the ones trying to bury something." It took a little under 45 minutes to reach LAX. For most of that time, half an hour, maybe more, she sat wordlessly beside me. Then the smell gave her away. Cheap liquor, the clink of mini bottles hidden somewhere in her bag. Liquid courage, I assumed, for the confession she'd clearly been working up to. "That wedding," she said out of nowhere. "Sarah Patterson's?" I asked. "What about it?" "Back then, Serena and I were still close," she said. "Before she became whatever she is now." She gave a vague wave, like trying to swat away the memory. "People evolve," I offered, adjusting the mirror so I could study her face. "She made out with someone that night," she blurted, the words finally breaking free. "Behind the tent. And no, it wasn't you." I kept my grip steady on the wheel. "Who was it?" "One of Troy's buddies. A banker, New York type." Her hands shook slightly as she fished her phone from her purse. "I was drunk. Thought it was funny, so I took pictures." She tilted the phone toward me. A set of photos, clearly marked with a 2-year-old timestamp, showed Serena in a light blue dress wrapped around a man in a tuxedo, smiling, kissing, framed by the white canvas behind the reception. "I should have deleted them," she muttered. "Pretended it never happened." "So why didn't you?" "Because I knew she'd wreck a good man eventually." And I was right, wasn't I? She tapped the screen a few times, and just like that, the photos landed in my inbox via airdrop. No guilt, no apology. Her choice, plain and final. 5 images in total, each one clear enough to silence any argument. As we pulled up to the curb at the airport, she caught my wrist before stepping out. "What are you planning to do with them?" "Just speak the truth," I said. "Nothing more. She'll know it was me." "Will she?" Ellie paused, searching my face as if trying to confirm something she couldn't quite name. Then she gave a small nod, like some internal lock finally clicked open. "Take care of yourself, Nate. You deserve better than this." I watched her disappear into the crowd, swallowed by the terminal's noise and movement. Then I looked down at the images again. Serena's smile mid-kiss, a moment of betrayal frozen like a specimen behind glass. That night, I went home and burned another USB stick. No name, no note. Just a date. A date she'd long buried, but one she'd recognize the second it appeared. Her spotlight moment was nearly here. The rooftop gala at the Penthouse Club. 200 guests, endless champagne, the city skyline glittering in every direction. She'd poured weeks into the planning, called it her arrival, her crowning achievement, spinning every conversation into some dramatic scene. Naturally, I wasn't on the guest list. I was working, assigned as a driver for high-end guests. The coordinator had been clear. Keep a low profile. Invisible service only. Invisible. That summed up our marriage perfectly. Troy Vale was my second pickup of the night. He climbed into the front seat. Odd for someone with his ego, but Troy liked to bend the rules in subtle ways, just enough to assert dominance. "Penthouse Club," he said, skipping any greeting. "Big night," I said. "Serena's showpiece. Should be something." The way he said her name made my stomach knot, like it belonged to him now. "You two still talk?" That's when he looked at me, actually registering who I was. "You're the husband." "Tonight I'm the driver," I replied. Not much difference, really. By the time we arrived, Serena was already mid-speech on the rooftop. Through the tall windows, her silhouette stood poised with a wine glass raised, radiating charisma, the same magnetic glow that once pulled me in. Troy adjusted his jacket and walked in like he owned the place, just in time to crash her grand finale. The timing was so perfect, it almost felt rehearsed. I parked across the street and raised my telephoto lens, standard equipment for keeping tabs on VIP clients. Through the viewfinder, I caught the ripple. It began quickly. Conversations dipped to whispers. Heads turned. Troy's presence at the rooftop bar knocked the whole rhythm off balance. Serena faltered mid-sentence. She spotted him. No words passed between them, but none were needed. The room had already started buzzing. Speculation swept the crowd like a breeze through tall grass. Her professional triumph had twisted into a new headline. By the time I left to collect the next guest, 3 photographers had already captured the scene. Not her and Troy in a compromising pose. That would have been too easy. No, they caught the fallout, the shift. And in Serena's world, perception wasn't just important, it was everything. It wasn't just the disruption itself that rattled everything. It was the convergence of past complications crashing into the present, blurring boundaries and igniting fallout. That's what truly destabilized things. Right at 11 p.m., Serena intercepted me by the back elevator. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she demanded, voice sharp. I stood there, holding the elevator door open with a neutral expression, professional and unreadable. Just fulfilling my responsibilities as a chauffeur. "You brought Troy to my event?" He booked a ride. I delivered him to the address he gave. Her face was flushed, partly from too much wine, partly from rage. "This is my livelihood, Nate. My reputation. My brand." "I know," I said flatly. "Then why would you—" She didn't finish. The elevator chimed as it arrived. From across the lobby, a camera flash flickered. Some photographer capturing the tension against a skyline backdrop. She grabbed my arm. "This conversation isn't over." I stepped into the elevator and let the doors begin to slide shut. Actually, I'd say it is. By 6 a.m. Monday, an anonymous email quietly reached multiple inboxes. No name in the sender field, no message, just a clean 2-minute audio file attached, sent to carefully selected contacts from Serena's professional circle. Her PR firm, influential clients, key figures in her industry. The audio quality was pristine, legally acquired, and completely damning. Jessica's voice, smug and venomous, mocking our marriage. Sarah's snarky comments about my work. Amanda, casually revealing that Troy still had access to Serena's place. All of it recorded in a legally monitored commercial vehicle with proper signage and licensing. By 9 o'clock, Serena's phone hadn't stopped ringing. "They're asking how the recording happened." "Some are mentioning wiretap laws," she said, storming around the kitchen like a caged animal. "My drivers operate under standard disclosure notices. Legal liability signage is posted. Everything's above board," I said evenly. "Nate, don't twist this around. Don't pull that legalese crap with me." I took a sip of coffee, glancing at my phone. 3 new trip requests had come in. One of them was from Sarah Kim, apparently still unaware. They chose to have personal conversations inside a documented commercial vehicle. That wasn't my call. That was theirs. She stared at me like I'd grown horns. "You're willing to torch everything I've built over some cheap revenge stunt?" "I'm not destroying anything," I answered. "I'm just letting the truth speak for itself." She grabbed a ceramic mug and flung it across the room. It shattered against a cabinet door, sending splashes of dark liquid across the surface like dried blood. "Fix it!" she screamed. "Fix what?" I said. "The fact that the people closest to you never respected either of us? Or that you allowed them to?" Her phone rang again. She didn't answer, but the caller ID was clearly visible, Jessica Crane. "They won't even pick up when I call," she muttered, almost to herself. And for just a second, I almost felt sympathy. Almost. When she finally left to attend what she called emergency PR meetings, I noticed something under my windshield wiper. No envelope, no return address. Just a valet slip from Troy's condo building. Scribbled across it in thick red marker was his unit number. Whoever left it wanted me to see it. I started the car and headed for the warehouse district, thoughts swirling about keys, elevators, and all the hidden truths that wealthy people bury behind mirrored windows and luxury security systems. I knew Troy's building well enough to remember a detail. While security cameras blanketed the lobby and entrances, the stairwells in the parking garage were blind spots. An oversight someone with my kind of memory would never overlook. I waited in the shadows, tucked between levels, tracking the rhythm of his routine. Men like Troy were predictable. Same bistro every Tuesday, same reserved spot in the garage, same time, every time. He showed up at exactly 9:47 p.m. Designer shoes tapping against concrete, phone to his ear. "Tell her I'll think about it," he was saying, "but I'm not getting sucked into her marriage mess." I emerged from the darkness. "Bit late for that, don't you think?" He flinched, nearly dropping his phone. Under the fluorescent garage lighting, his carefully curated image slipped. He looked tired, his age catching up to him. "Jesus, you scared me." He shoved his phone in his coat pocket. "What are you doing here?" "Same question I had when I spotted you at Serena's event." "I was a guest," he said quickly. "Invited by who?" There was a pause, long enough to confirm my suspicions. "Someone I know works with the event planner." "Try again," I said. Troy tried to square up, forcing composure back into his frame. But it was too late. Control had already shifted. "Look," he began, voice coiled tight with tension. "I don't know what kind of sick setup you think you're running with all this recording nonsense, but—" "Setup?" I advanced on him, slow and measured. "You think I'm doing this for fun?" "I think you've lost your mind," he shot back, edging toward the elevator. "You're tailing people, spying on conversations, showing up where you don't belong. Serena doesn't need this kind of chaos. She's getting exactly the outcome she worked for. And what's that supposed to mean?" I gave him a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "It means you still have her spare key." His expression collapsed in real time. "What? How do you even— Did you go through her stuff?" "Didn't have to," I said coolly. "You and your little social circle aren't nearly as discreet as you think. Some secrets just spill." Before he could register what was happening, I snatched the phone from his hand, right as he went to press the elevator button. The stairwell magnified the sound as I slammed the device to the ground. It cracked like a bone breaking, the screen fracturing into a shattered pattern. "That was a $1,200 phone," he gasped. "Invoice me," I muttered, lifting the broken phone and dropping it into a nearby storm drain. The splash was oddly satisfying. Then I turned to him again. "Stay the hell away from my wife." "Or what?" he sneered, trying to stand tall. I leaned in close enough to smell his expensive cologne. Or I stopped being polite. The elevator behind us dinged softly. Doors open, empty interior, right on cue. I gestured toward it. "Your ride's ready." Troy, visibly rattled, stepped inside and jabbed at the buttons like they'd burn him. As the doors started to slide closed, I pulled out my phone and tapped out a short message to Serena. Caution. Slick roads. She'd read between the lines. She always did. Eventually. Roxy's penthouse wasn't just luxury, it was engineered for secrecy. Sitting high on the 24th floor, it boasted soundproof walls, a sweeping balcony view, and a reputation for hosting affairs, hush-hush deals, and perfectly timed exits. Her design business thrived on one philosophy: the rich will always need places to hide their sins. The private car bay underneath was the crown jewel, built for discreet entrances and quiet exits, ideal for meetings involving assets, lovers, or both. I pulled in at 8:15 sharp. Roxy emerged from the elevator like she owned the air around her, draped in silk, diamonds catching the streetlights, and a confidence born of old money. "Mr. Kellum," she greeted me smoothly as she slid into the back seat. "Penthouse Club?" She nodded. "Yes, thank you." The ride through the city was uneventful, quiet, elegant. Roxy was one of the rare ones, punctual, polite, and tipped like she meant it. But more than that, she had a voice that carried, clear as a bell from her top-floor balcony to the alley below. When we reached her building, she checked her phone. "Actually, would you mind waiting a bit? A few people are stopping by later. I might need another lift." "How long do you think?" "An hour or two. I'll pay for the wait time." I settled the car in the private bay, cracked a window, and let the night air in. Above, the lights on her balcony flicked on, like a spotlight before curtain rise. Then her voice drifted down. "She's considering it. Roxy was saying, planning to meet Troy just to settle things. Her words, not mine. That sharp, cutting laugh belonged to Sarah Kim. I knew it immediately. Serena always did treat her relationships like theater, Sarah chimed in. If your marriage is on fire, that's not drama, that's collapse, said Amanda Cross. So all three were there. Maybe it should fall apart, Roxy replied. Her husband's lost it. Recording everything, following people. He's full-blown obsessive. Wait, what? Sarah's tone stiffened. You're saying he's stalking now? He followed Troy to dinner last week. Cornered him in a parking garage. Troy's actually thinking about filing for a restraining order. Silently, I tapped on the voice recorder app and started a new memo. Legal and clean. Outdoor space, public air, no presumption of privacy. Serena needs to decide, Amanda said. Either fix the marriage or walk away from it. With Troy back? Roxy added. It's an easy call. The conversation rolled on another 20 minutes. They tossed out timelines, made plans, laughed like they were booking a weekend getaway, not laying out someone else's future. And just like that, they were rewriting my wife's life story. 3 women who'd never worked a real day in their lives. By 10:30, the voices faded. They'd gone back inside. I sent Serena one final message. Don't misplace your keys. Then, on a second line, I added Troy's home address. She'd get the message. She always did. Eventually. The men standing beside him weren't private security officers, but regular building staff. Still, their presence was enough to send a message. Callum, Troy called, his voice echoing through the concrete hallway. We need to talk. Do we? I said evenly. Let me guess. The conversations about boundaries, or maybe the concept of respect. Perhaps you're here to explain why you keep showing up where you're not wanted, both in my building and in my life. I glanced at the 2 employees flanking him. They looked fresh out of college, the kind of guys working graveyard shifts to pay tuition. You could tell they were in over their heads, roped into a situation well above their comfort zone. Why don't you 2 take a step back, I suggested. This doesn't concern you. They stay, Troy replied. They're here to observe. Just in case you decide to pull another stunt. A stunt? I smirked. You mean when your phone conveniently ended up in a drain? I wouldn't call that violence. Call it what you want. Harassment, intimidation, he said coldly. But it stops now. I took a step toward him, my smile never fading. One of the guards tensed, fingers drifting toward his walkie-talkie. You know what I call it? I said softly. 2 men drawing a line in the sand. Something in Troy's demeanor flickered, a small crack in his confidence. Keep out of my building, he snapped. That's not up to you, I replied. Clients live here. I have business. Fine, then steer clear of me. Can't promise that either, I said. You're the one who keeps pushing into my world. Instead of stepping closer, I suddenly turned and slammed both palms against the steel railing. The metallic impact thundered down the stairwell like a cannon blast. Both guards jumped, fully alert now. Watch your footing, I said, curling my fingers around the rail. Stairs like these? Real easy to lose your balance. Troy's face went pale. He understood, loud and clear. It wasn't a threat. It was a reminder, thinly veiled and carefully phrased. We're done, he muttered, motioning to the 2 guards to follow him. They backed off, unsure whether to prioritize protocol or instinct. As the elevator doors slid shut, I caught his reflection in the brushed steel. Eyes wide with fear, disguised as anger, his posture stiff with bruised ego. I took out my phone and captured a picture of the stairwell, just gray walls, harsh fluorescent lighting, and industrial coldness. The kind of place no one would miss someone. I sent the image to Serena, attaching a single caption. Watch your step. Slippery ground. She'd get the message. She always did. Eventually. As I walked back to my vehicle, the thought lingered. About the thin divide between retribution and justice. About how easy it is to blur the line. I hadn't crossed it yet, but I was right on the edge. Ellie Shore was already seated in the back of my car when I finished a late-night job by the hospital. How she bypassed the locks was beyond me. They weren't basic. Impressive for someone who called herself a marketing assistant. We need to talk, she said quietly from the back seat. About what? I asked, eyes flicking to the rearview mirror. About what you're doing to Serena, she answered, and why I'm going to help you finish it. This time she looked different, clear-eyed, composed, like she'd spent hours reflecting on our last encounter. Why would you want to help me? Because she destroyed my friendship with Sarah Patterson, Ellie said. Because she twisted the truth after that wedding. Made sure Sarah cut me out completely, all because I saw too much. Saw what exactly? Her expression didn't shift. The banker wasn't the only one. She unlocked her phone and pulled up a hidden album labeled SP Wedding, Delete. There was the bartender, and the wedding planner's assistant. She handed me the phone. Photo after photo, each stamped with time and location, documented my wife in compromising poses with different men around the venue. Different backdrops, same pattern. A masterclass in betrayal. Who else knows about this? I asked. No one, she said. I was assisting the photographer that night. I had full access. She paused before continuing. I saved these, just in case. In case I ever needed a way to defend myself. What changed? I asked. You, Ellie said simply. The moment you stopped letting her trample you. That's when I realized I'd spent too long shielding someone who wouldn't even lift a finger for me. Without ceremony, she selected the entire album, photos, videos, everything, and sent it to me. A digital archive of deceit. Evidence I hadn't even known I needed until it landed in my hands. What are you asking for in return? I asked, expecting a price. Nothing from you, she said, but I want Serena to know it came from me. Her voice was steady, sharp, like steel honed by years of silence. She needs to learn something important, Ellie continued, that actions have witnesses, and witnesses eventually speak. I drove her home through deserted streets, mind looping through the images she'd shown me. Friendships shattered, trust betrayed, revenge calculated to the decimal. By morning, I had everything I needed to destroy Serena's carefully manufactured public persona. But that wasn't what I really wanted. Public humiliation wasn't the end game. I wanted her to feel what I had felt, that hollow ache of being invisible, disregarded and discarded by someone who once swore they cared. At exactly 8 a.m., I contacted a family law attorney and booked a consultation for the following week. We'd be discussing property division, the misuse of shared funds, and how to walk away from a broken marriage with self-respect intact. The session would cost $500. The insight I'd gain? Invaluable. The lease was in my name. I'd been the one to co-sign when Serena's credit couldn't meet the requirements of the luxury complex she demanded we live in. For 3 years, I'd covered every rent payment alone. Never missed one, never split it. Ending that lease was simpler than expected. 30 days notice is typical, the leasing manager said. But with your payment history, we can allow early termination for a modest fee. That modest fee came out to $2,000. I paid it on the spot with a cashier's check. Packing up our home wasn't just emotional, it had to be methodical. The laws around communal property can get murky, but the rules around marital waste? Crystal clear. Anything acquired using joint finances during the marriage belonged to both parties, unless one had damaged or devalued assets through betrayal or neglect. Most of the large furniture was donated. I kept every donation receipt, useful come tax season, tech gear, personal accessories, artwork. Those remained with whoever originally paid for them. When all was said and done, not much remained. 3 years of shared life had been reduced to a blender and a few old photographs. Before I left, I set one final item on the empty floor of the living room, a small USB stick marked with the date of our wedding. Serena returned home from her business trip in Chicago to find a silent apartment, stripped bare of warmth. Nate? Her voice echoed against the empty walls. Nate, are you here? But I wasn't. By then, I had relocated to a furnished place on the other side of the city, month-to-month rental, no attachments, a clean start. That night, just after midnight, my phone buzzed with a call from her. Her voice shook, and for a fleeting second, it almost sounded sincere. I watched what you left, she said. Those pictures. It's not what it looks like. No, I said. Then tell me, what does it look like? It looks like I was drunk, being careless. I made mistakes I regret. Sounds about right. This isn't how marriage is supposed to end, she insisted. People argue. They communicate. They fight for each other. They do, I said, when they still see themselves as a team. That stopped a long time ago. When? She whispered. I thought for a moment before replying. Probably the first time you laughed along with your friends when they called me nothing more than a driver. She didn't speak. The silence on the other end stretched out. Only her breath lingered in the air between us. I didn't mean to what? I asked. To show me exactly where I ranked in your life? To make sure I understood how replaceable I was? I let out a quiet chuckle as I lay in a bed that didn't feel like ours. Trust me. I got the message loud and clear. Where are you? She asked, her voice barely audible. Gone, I said, and with that I hung up and powered down the phone. Tomorrow would bring legal filings, documentation, and the slow but certain process of unraveling every decision we once made together. But that night, for the first time in what felt like years, I slept deeply. The road shimmered with rain as I drove, Serena's laptop bag beside me, technically her personal property, which only made the irony heavier. My headlights carved through the storm ahead, and in the mirror, I spotted Troy's car swerving through the lanes like a man with no brakes and no plan. His BMW surged up next to me at highway speed, slicing through puddles, the engine screaming. I could see his face behind the window, twisted in rage and something close to desperation. He veered toward my lane, trying to force my hand. I eased off the gas, let him surge forward, then accelerated and took the space he'd left behind. Years of advanced driving instruction, mandatory back in my professional days, had prepared me for moments exactly like this. He tried a second time, cutting across multiple lanes to block me off. But he hit a slick stretch of road, and the back end of his car skidded. I stayed calm, adjusted smoothly into the curve, kept control. Rookie, I muttered, watching him flail in the mirrors. The chase continued. 3 chaotic miles of wet pavement, headlights, and the pulse of adrenaline tearing through the city's core. Rain lashed against both vehicles, as if the sky itself was trying to wash the pavement clean. Troy's driving was more chaos than control, reckless and impulsive, like he thought he was in some action thriller. What the moment really needed was surgical precision, not cinematic drama. I guided my car toward the industrial section of town, where traffic thinned and options widened. We rolled up to a red light side by side. His window dropped with a mechanical whir. "Give me the bag!" he shouted, barely audible over the roar of the storm. I tilted my head. What bag are we talking about? Don't play games, you know damn well. But the light turned green before he could build momentum. I hit the accelerator and surged forward, cutting off the rest of his outburst. My car gained distance fast. In the mirror, I saw him try to match my pace, only to lose control at a turn. His BMW fishtailed, spun out, and crashed hard into a concrete barrier. The impact wasn't fatal, but it was enough to leave a lasting reminder. White steam hissed from the wreckage, a noxious blend of radiator fluid and rain swirling into the air like smoke on a battlefield. I eased to a stop, shifted into park, and stepped into the downpour. Troy was still buckled in when I reached him, body pressed into the seat, eyes wide but conscious. "You hurt?" I asked. He gave a slow, stunned nod. "Good to know." I leaned through the shattered window, reached across his chest, and yanked the keys from the ignition. "Stay away from my wife." I let the keys fall into a nearby storm drain, where they disappeared with a splash. I didn't wait for his response. Whatever story he gave the cops, the tow truck, or his insurer would be soaked with embarrassment. Let him explain how he wrecked his car chasing a man through a torrential storm. Later, I placed the laptop bag neatly on Serena's doorstep. Next to it, I set the envelope I'd written earlier that morning. Inside, a formal notice of separation, a detailed list of our joint assets, and a message stripped of sentiment. No counseling, no tearful discussions, no second chances, just finality, sealed in ink and rain. Driving home through the empty city streets, I let my mind wander. Some decisions you see coming from miles away, others slam into you without warning. There are storms you steel yourself against, and ones you crawl away from. This one was almost behind me.